carefully.
Yes,
I
please
am.
do.
Thank you.
And Gregory, thank you for the message this morning.
You're welcome. I didn't want to not reply. I wasn't sure how to answer that, so I thought I'd just speak it to you.
Well, I wasn't sure how to
Oh,
reply either, but we're here with Paul now.
okay. Well,
Anyway,
look, thank you. I'm both glad you're here with me and Nicolette. So we started streaming. So welcome to the next chapter in Think and Grow Rich, which is the chapter on the mastermind group. And this is an interesting chapter because he covers he basically says that in order to get ahead, you can't do it by yourself. You have to create a mastermind. And he talks about the different powers, different types of intelligence, infinite intelligence, accumulated intelligence, and experiments and research. So I suppose I might just try something different before we get going. I know you read the book this morning in the swimming pool, Adrian. Don't know how your book doesn't get wet.
in
um,
fact, last week I accidentally dropped the corner of it, and the sun was so strong, it dried in about 30 minutes. It it was amazing. I couldn't believe. I knew it would happen one day, and but it dried literally because our sun is so strong, Gregory. Literally in 30 minutes, all of the pages and the cover that got wet. I mean, it's still good. Still good. I knew it would happen, but it did not happen today. And one of the reasons I like doing it is because water is a great neutralizer for me and many people. When you go into that water state, doesn't matter what it is, a shower or a bath. Um, you've heard the story of Eureka and jumping out of the bath. You've heard cold showers. Being beside the seaside, water is a great channel for getting stuff into your brain because it relaxes you. And I'm not sure if that's because you think you're back in the womb again, but it really works for me. And it's a part of, it's a habit now that makes sure I read the chapter before this call on Monday nights. So it's my
well,
lead up to the call.
that's a very interesting philosophy that you have over there. Um, what was your biggest takeaway from the chapter then?
It was again. I was amazed at what I've said many times. Be do have is essential in this book to believe, to become, practice, pretend, role play, test out, do mock-ups of being what you want to become or becoming the change you want to see, and then doing everything to support that, and then receiving everything and having everything that that is due to you, and you deserve, and that having the universe conspire. So when I read his 3 points, infinite intelligence, well, that is B, isn't it? Accumulated experience, that is having something, and experiment and research is do. So although he doesn't have them in that order, the idea is the same. Bear in mind, Zig Ziglar came along afterwards, where he put them in the better order of be, do, have. It's just that Napoleon Hill's got it as be, have, do, but that's good enough because those 3 steps are essential. You you've got your what you control inside you, which is the be, and the working with other people is the doing, and have is really the universe. If the universe does not want you to have it, you won't have it. If you think about it more, you will have it. I
Okay,
only
so
putting that universe thing in because Angelica's not here tonight.
Yes, and all our hearts go out to Angelica. Oh, no, and Anna as well. I don't know what's happened to Angelica.
Angelica only has fans at her place, no air conditioning, and she has been struggling to work all day. And you have to remember, she is a grandmother, and in that kind of heat at her desk, she's got two screens and everything is on. So she is probably switching off and just trying to get to another room where it's cooler. I know
Well, I
she.
can relate to that.
Yeah.
Right, so Gregory, what was your big takeaway from the chapter?
Well, I believe that the true mastermind is the all mind, the infinite intelligence. It's when people come together. It goes back to imagination. One person's imagination will bring that creative um, power from infinite intelligence. But when you bring several people together and all their minds are intensely focused on one point, it draws in that what I consider the mastermind of infinite intelligence, all knowing, all wisdom, and it helps to feed ideas and solutions into the people's individual minds. Um, Without that complete intense focus of all those minds, then I believe a group of people may still come up with ideas or solutions, but they're based that's coming from the individual's experience and knowledge that they're bringing together. But when they're all focused intensely on one point, then that focus of all of their minds are drawing in what I consider to be the mastermind. I think that's what a true mastermind is. It is the all-knowing mind of infinite intelligence coming into it.
Like the flow that you don't even need to make a decision. It just happen. You just know, you feel it.
Yes, yes, and I like what Adrian said about the be having or be do and have. I didn't even see that part in it. I like how you brought that up. That's very good. That's true.
I would hope that I can add a bit more value to my reading of this book the second or third time. I can't vouch for all the second times I've dipped into it, but this time is as studious as I was the first time, and I have different people around me to the first time I read it. I have three children around me, so I tend to look at it a different way and analyze it a different way. But if you look at some very negative mastermind groups, you can look at things like the Bay of Pigs invasion. They had a think tank in the US government for that, what to do about Cuba. And what happened was they had a bias and they all agreed that it was a great idea. There was no objectivity. So that's also, mastermind group doesn't, you don't necessarily want to have everybody thinking the same as you. You want them thinking about the same things, but possibly with a different opinion. So someone can be devil's advocate, or someone can be a risk mitigator for what might be long term and no one's seeing, or maybe medium term. They can see short term and long term, but not the medium term, which is the transition time or transition risk.
Yeah, fantastic. And we'll get a little bit more into what both of you said. But before we do that, Nicolette, what was your biggest takeaway from the chapter?
First of all, what Adrian said, the be do have concept has always been very strong within me. It's the being, not the doing. We are human beings, and
Yes. We're
really
human beings.
understanding that the being is the yin in us as well, and the true self, rather than pretending who you need to be for everybody else. For me, the being is the first. It's probably the last step we really reach, but the first step we want to do. So we want to be somebody, but when you come all of a sudden to being anybody, is a different being. The having was for me quite often related really to the materialistic part of life, and that comes in conjunction with like the power and the money and everything else as well. Why the having can be such different things in life now. What I really got out of the chapter was as well the power of the infinite intelligence, to be surrounded by the people you surround yourself by, with the masterminds, the like-minded people, and how you just lift through each other's spirit higher to your higher self. And that becomes your being while you have everything and doing everything as well.
Fantastic. And what he actually says in the book is power is defined as an organized and intellectually directed knowledge and organized effort sufficient to enable to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent. Organized effort is produced through the coordination of two or more people who work towards a definite end in spirit and in harmony. And there's a few important points in this. The first one is two or more, so more than one person, but it could be 2 and 4, 6 or 8, and in spirit and in harmony. So it's got to be in spirit and in harmony. So to people working together, any comments about those? Anyone? Yes, Adrian.
I'll just continue what Nicolette said. A good way to remember, yes, that we're human beings, because I had a German psychologist coach say this, is we're not human doings and we're not human havings. We're human beings is the greatest way to do it. And an Indian person that told me everything from poverty to riches, success, not success, is a choice, because you're choosing. Everything you say or everything you do, you can consider it a choice. Is, do I want to be known for this, or is this what I want to be, or is how do it's easy sometimes if you're in the public eye to think, what do you want the public to think of you afterwards? So are you really being authentic, or are you being fake? Can you do it in a, are you being true to what is your plan to become something? And there's a lot of people have different takes on that, and they have different exceptions to the rule until they get full discipline. I don't know who said it, but no person can be free until they learn how to control themselves. Because once you control yourself, you actually get a high from not doing certain things, and not being a certain way gives you a dopamine hit.
Nicolette?
I was going to say it reads a little part of the chapter, if that's okay, because it's so well described, I can't describe it. So when two or more people coordinate in the spirit of harmony and work towards a definite objective, they place themselves in a position through that alliance to observe power directly from the great universal storehouse of infinite intelligence. This is the greatest of all sources of power. It is the source to which the genius turns and it is the source to which every great leader turns. That was very powerful for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a look at the great leaders of the world, nobody's ever done it by themselves. They always have to do it by more than one person. Yeah. Gregory, what did you have to add to that?
Well, I kind of want to go to kind of what Adrian was saying about the be and the be, do, and have. The being is before the mastermind. If one knows exactly what they're after, you gotta actually be that before you're ever going to obtain anything. If you become what you're after, if you are that person, if you be that prior to the doing or the having, then you stand a much greater chance of obtaining that, because the being will cause you to do, and the being and the doing will bring the have. And what Nicolette just read kind of goes back to what I was thinking about it. The true mastermind is the all-knowing mind, the source that created all things in existence, where all knowledge is.
If I can add to that, Gregory, is like you say, we're becoming, but we're not becoming, we already be. So if we just go back to us being, we don't need to become. It's just peeling off all what has been put upon us, what we need to do and have. If we take that away, we still be. So we don't need to become. We're actually going back to the original being, who we truly are.
Should we have a small celebration that we have reached 70%, finished 70% of the book?
Of course, we celebrate every day, don't we?
Yes, but I think, it's just like I I want to read another book with you guys after this, and I think everybody should be noticing now that a majority of people that read Think and Grow Rich start trying to do all the things when they haven't really formulated and decided what they want to be. And I see this over and over with entrepreneurs and business people that are startups or need help, and actually potential employees see it in their eyes that they don't know what they're going to be, and they try to think of the perfect product without knowing what they want to be, and they just can't succeed. But on a larger scale, you have people who haven't even read the book and would never read the book and are never anything, because all they concentrate on is trying to have everything first before they'll make an effort. And the greatest thing about this book, and this is why I bought a copy of this for my wife in Thai, when we lived in Thailand, all my favorite books, I went to the bookshop and bought the Thai version of them for her, so that she would I wouldn't have to be trying to translate everything. And this is one of the books I bought in Thai, because the greatest resource we have is the temple that is our body. This is, this is everything. And like you said, Nicolette, if you peel away what you have and you don't have anything, if you stop doing what you're doing, you will still be content to be what you are. And you'll be surprised how many people read this book and still think that they need to change their spouse, or they wish they had a different family, instead of changing themselves. And if you've ever seen The Matrix, and they say, it's it's not the spoon that bends. Then you talk to Angelica and she'll say, guess what? There's not even a spoon. Spoon doesn't even exist. But that, or I have a Polish friend told me, whenever you think everyone around you is an idiot, guess what? You're the idiot. Because you should be the one that can see past it and change it and accept them and forgive them and make space for them and leave them in what they're doing. So it really this book is really showing the smart people or the ones capable that you can do it within your head and your heart. If you unite those two things, and it goes without saying, if you're not moving your body and doing some form of exercise, whether it is walking, and they actually say walking is better than jogging for you, um, those three things are free. It's free to go and walk, it's free to think, and it's free to change your spirit or your belief system to accommodate what you want to become. It's a
But this
little bit.
is not the conversation we're having worldwide. I'm having that every single day with friends, with clients. They have everything. And I look at myself. We had a multi-million-dollar house. We had this, we had that, you name it all. And what was I doing? I was sitting on the couch and my husband said, what do you really want? And I said, just be happy. So even having everything you think makes you happy and what people will say that makes you happy doesn't make you happy. And when we were traveling in Nepal with nothing but just a backpack, that was the happiest we ever were. And that's like the third poorest country in the world. But we were surrounded by happy people and everybody was smiling. I told the story before, and I think you don't need to have everything. Having and success and happiness is within. And people think they need to have a business coach to set up their business and all these kind of things to have and this and that and whatever. But what they really need is to look inside who they really want to be and find out who they are. Because when you know who you are, you know what you want to have and have not in a materialistic way. And you don't care what people think about you. You don't compare yourself anymore. You don't judge as much anymore. And again, 80-20 rule doesn't work all the time. We're still human. But I think it's just being as true as you can be to your true self. That's my purpose.
You're 100% correct, Nicolette, and that's what makes you so valuable in this group. Is you also doing this, I think, with your second language. Really, the hardest thing to teach anyone is how to teach them how to think, and to discover that the answer to everything, they can find it within themselves. And it's unfortunate that human nature tells us we're not going to be happy with what we're born with. We're going to always seek more, to the point where we can then have the luxury to look back and realize we don't need as much as what we've accumulated. That's a terrible thing it's a curse of the human race, that we won't take someone's word for it, that we don't need that much until we've had more and seen it for ourselves and let it sort of like encumber us or trap us, and then we escape it by knowing that we don't need so much. It's very you if you went to a developing country and you told them, oh, of course you guys are happy, you don't need much, but actually their kids, they're probably trying to help their kids to have more than what they have, and they're not going to accept that they should just stay like that. That's because humans have a it's not a curse, it's a blessing, I suppose. We all do hope that we leave the planet better than how we found it, and we do our best, whether it's working with inanimate objects or with working with people or with working with ideas and beliefs, to leave it in a better way than we found it.
I think one of the things about the human condition is that you cannot not desire something.
Correct.
Whenever, let's say you desire to have a nice car, once you've got that car, you go directly on to the next desire because it's a human condition. And so this being, doing, having, it will never stop when you're a human being. And hi, Paul. Welcome. Good to see you back.
Thanks, Paul.
Right, so we talked about the mastermind, and we defined what power was. So power was the organized coming together of two people. Then he goes on to talk about the different types of power or knowledge. He says power is essential for the accumulation and retention of money. How is power acquired? If it is organized knowledge, the sources of knowledge are infinite intelligence, accumulated experience, and experiment and research, which is gathering and classifying and organizing new facts. So knowledge can be acquired by any of the sources and then converted into power by organizing it into definite plans and expressing it, those plans in terms of action. So, and one of the sources of the knowledge he talks about is accumulated experience. He says you can go to the library and find that. The library has all that knowledge there anyway. So it's been organized, catalogued, and all that. So there's no excuse for anyone not to go about and accumulate power. Right? I think the power that we all want to tap into, though, is this power of infinite intelligence, which is acquiring a mastermind alliance, a mastermind group. Anyone want to make comments on the different types of knowledge? Yes, Adrian. And then Gregory.
Yeah, I think the different kinds of knowledge is also something people misinterpret, because what happens with a lot of coaches, they put their clients into a position to make a vision board or something, and you find the vision board is covered with things that you can have, like a house and a boat and a car and a beautiful spouse and all these things that's all in their vision board, but nothing in there about what they're willing to do to get that, or what they need to become and be to do that. So with the intelligence, once you know what you want to be, it's like when you manifest something, you will find the information will just appear in front of you, just like on Facebook. You search for something in Google, it's going to start pushing it through your feed into your face. With the Facebook, it's going to show up in all your searches. They're recreating it so you can find, and people think that you need to go and study it at university or TAFE or college or technical college or send away for a book, when in fact you can probably remember where you saw it last, and you know somebody who can teach you that.
Gregory, what did you want to add to that?
Again, I think one can do only so much based upon their own experiences, and then there's research and development. These are all things that an individual can do and accomplish, and the infinite intelligence, then that's bringing a spiritual aspect into it. I know on another discussion, Adrian mentioned some companies that have teams of artificial intelligence, and I can see where they can get a lot from that, because artificial intelligence has so much of accumulated knowledge that they can think and solve things, but the spiritual element of it is out, and that spiritual element of the true mastermind contains all knowledge that there ever was in the universe, in all things in existence. So when people tap into that true mastermind of infinite intelligence, they're taking everything to a level that they will never obtain on their own with their own minds. And that's something that artificial intelligence, no matter how evolved artificial intelligence can get, it's never going to be able to connect with that spiritual nature that is of all things. So that's the most important element, I believe, in the mastermind, is being able to tap into that all knowledge, all wisdom.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because we're going to start heading down towards that. Before we do that, I just want to get Paul Cummings's views on the infinite intelligence. I know Paul's done a lot of work around this area and he's quite knowledgeable. So, Paul, what kind of feedback do you have regarding the power of the infinite intelligence, the mastermind group?
I think sometimes the clearer you can get on what it is that you want or are asking for, the probably the more likely you are to actually get it. So I've told this story to a few people, but I don't know whether you've heard it before, Paul. So it was about, it'll be 15 years ago now. I decided I wanted to go back flying. I hadn't flown for quite a while, as in fly commercially. But I decided what I wanted was an aircraft that you could stand up in. Had to be 2 crew, 2 engine. Had to have a flight attendant, a galley, a toilet, air conditioned, and auxiliary power unit, which means it's basically self-contained. And I applied for, well, I think 2 jobs with the company. Anyway, the job they ended up offering me was on a Dash 8-100, which has all of those things. I mean, it was they took a bit of a risk on me because I hadn't flown for quite a while. But I rang the chief pilot and spoke to him and told him what I wanted to do. And so I don't know whether sort of manifesting is quite the right word. I mean, that possibly was in some ways, but just being clear on what you want. And then it's more likely to appear, or at least you'll see the opportunities. But I mean, sometimes you do need to adapt to something that's close. But when I look back on it, it met every single one of the criteria that I wanted. So, and you know, that's I probably haven't done it enough at other times, but maybe I need to start doing it again and learn my own lesson from it. Because, yeah, what you, I guess, focus on is what you move towards and achieve. And there's a second part to your question, Paul, and I can't recall what that was.
Well, what we're going to do, we'll start getting down into what some people will call the more woo-woo side of things now. Although it's not a terminology that I've heard quite recently because of the circles I run in now. But you know, he talks about there are 2 characteristics of the mastermind group. The first one is economic in nature, which is obvious, right? But the second one is psychic in nature, and this is a very interesting one. Now, the psychic nature is more abstract because it has reference to the spiritual forces which the human race is not acquainted. No 2 minds ever come together without creating a third invisible, intangible force, which might be likened to a third mind. And I think, Paul, you know, I think that's what we've been talking about when we get 2 or more people working in harmony. They're creating this invisible, spiritual, psychic in nature. Does anyone, Nicolette, I'm going to ask you this because this is your alley. And your alley.
Interesting question you're asking me. I just
The psychic in nature, yeah.
I just got a card. I'm just pulling this out. Sorry, I'm just looking on my phone for 2 seconds. It actually, I pulled a card and it was called the Universal Chakra. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's quite often higher than we think it is, and it's outside of ourselves and so much more than we are. And the universal chakra is actually located towards the edge of your upper auroric field and is represented by a golden glowing star, and it connects you to the universal flow of energy. And while you're working with your universal chakra, you're able to go beyond your higher self and further develop your psychic abilities. And therefore you can confer with the divine. That's the card I just got. With the activation was I am limitless and I'm boundless. And I go within to gain insight and understanding. And I thought it was, as we going through this mastermind, everything we're discussing in the chapters and discussing with all of us, it's been given in science in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
It is beyond words what is coming up. It's way bigger than all of us. And what I talked to you before, it's dimensions we can't even put into the English language or any language verbal to express that where we're going. It is the 20th, 30th, 40th dimension, whatever you want to call it. You don't even know. You can't actually logically comprehend it in your head, not even in your heart. And that's why we can't describe what it is like. And that's what I believe is that spirit of harmony. When you do this collectively, this is the power of the collective. And how it works, this woo-woo stuff, we don't know, we don't understand, but we don't need to. But it works in miraculous ways. And don't interfere too much. Let it just happen. Because if we interfere, we screw it up. Because we're humans. We screw up lots of things. So let the universe just do its work and let us just trust that process and just surrender to it.
Well, later on, he does go into the science of this. But before we go down into the science to try and put some context around this woo-woo stuff, Adrian, what did you want to add?
Wasn't it at the beginning of this book we discussed this, and I think it was Alison said it, or it's in the book at the very beginning, that, you know, most of the people we're talking to and trying to teach they'll believe it when they see it, whereas we need to be able to believe it without seeing it, or if you believe it, you will see it. And that's what a lot of faiths do operate on, that if you believe it, you will see it, you will feel it. Yes, and I think it was Alison or someone, because we were talking about energy and vibrations, and yes, and Nicolette, all those different levels of consciousness and awareness and just feeling it, where people can't explain having a gut feeling, whether it's positive or negative, or whether they just see someone and they just can't explain what they're feeling. It might not be a romantic attraction. It might just be they want to connect with them because they can just, like, they're feeling that they have to talk to them. Where so in this group, that infinite intelligence is, wow, how are we going to teach people that when we need to also teach them how to think? Or to be critical thinkers. So I think what you want to do with your mastermind group is, yes, when two or more people join, this is a lot like Ikigai from Japan, where you follow your passion and it pays well and you're good at it. And then the fourth element, which is it also helps the world. I think when you have the feeling that what you're doing is helping the world and other people you haven't met before, that puts you in that level of infinite intelligence as well. Or it might not be close to it for some people, but it's certainly along the right track. There are only 8 billion people.
It always makes me wonder how they can keep account of all the people on the planet. I think they just guess it.
Well, they said it's actually topping out. It will top out in 2035. That will reach the maximum and then it will start decreasing again.
Yeah, we don't know. No, but one of the things you said, and I saw Nicolette got a great reaction when you were talking about this. You need to believe it without seeing it, or it's all part of the creation process that the super rich go through. Is they believe they have so much faith in themselves that they can go out and create something, believe in it before. I think one of the problems with most people is they want proof before they will go about doing anything. However, part and parcel of creation is you have to have faith, and there is no proof. Gregory, what do you have to add to this?
I was just sitting here remembering someone I knew long ago through a girl that I dated once. It's related a lot to what I'm hearing about the feeling and energy and actually attracting things, because Napoleon Hill talks a lot about planning, and I'm not against planning. I think it's a good idea, and having a goal. But I'm remembering this guy. He never had a care in the world. He had no ambition, no goals. He was after he had no plan in life whatsoever. He just lived every life day to day, but he enjoyed living, and he wasn't a very moral individual either. And that caught up to him in the end. Last I heard, he had went to prison. But my point with this guy is that he seemed to just play with life, just go through life enjoying every day. And he attracted so many good things, opportunities, large sums of money. It just seemed like everything came his way. I didn't used to understand that at all. I kind of understand it a lot now. But I mean, for somebody who never had a job and never cared to do anything, once he won several $100,000 on lottery. Another time he got bumped by a car on his bicycle, which he didn't get a scratch. He got up and tried to leave, but the woman was so upset about it. She got out and stopped him and was talking to him and brought her husband into it, who was a doctor. And they ended up making sure everything was legal, that they gave him $10,000 because they were concerned he was going to sue them. It was just almost like a monthly thing. He was receiving large amounts of money, and he never did anything with his life except just play. And now I'm understanding it was his self-image. He felt that he was deserving of nice things. I mean, he wasn't the most moral person. There was a time where I know of that he had stolen money so that he could wear nice clothes and eat in nice places. So it wasn't, and it caught up with him in the end, but he just expected things to happen. It just came to him. So I think the be and the be, do, and have, the being, the expectation, the self-image, that is the most important thing, because even without a plan or a goal in life, this guy was just attracting everything good into his life. And it used to really bother me because I was working hard and thinking I was doing good for people, and I had to work for everything that I had. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But just watching everything come to him in larger sums than I was working hard for was really disturbing to me back then. But now I understand what was going on. he was bringing that into his life because he just attracted it through expectation, and it's amazing. It's really amazing. He no goal in life whatsoever, no plan. Everything was coming to him, and that just really used to really upset me, wondering why is that. But now I think it was his energy, his feeling, his self, his expectancy. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Look, I was reading in the chat where Nicolette said, that's happening to me every day now. It's amazing. What were you talking about there? Just when you're manifesting things all the time?
Yeah, but it was more what Adrian was saying, as you meet people and the harmony of people coming together. Just this weekend, I met this woman and we instantly connect, and we're catching up tomorrow, and we got all these amazing connections. And it's not just a connection, it's this big vision we both have. Never met her, and that is just happening constantly. It's a stranger at an expo, it's somebody on the street, it's somebody at the market, it's everybody, and they just randomly start talking. And they either hear like I'm Dutch, and the other one said, "Oh, I love your smile," and I'm like, "What's all happening?" And it's just one after the other, and from every conversation, something comes out of it. Not all of it, but many of them. They just incredible connections, and that's just the infinite possibilities and the infinite intelligence that we are all connected. And everybody always says, just call Nicolette if you need to know somebody, and she will connect you to whoever. But we can all do that, and we are all connected. There's really only 6 degrees of separation. That's all it is. Not even 6. Some of them it's just 1 or 2, and 3 degrees of separation, Nadine. Okay. And it's incredible how
and clients.
Say again.
For any employee that's going to work for you for a long period of time. 3, for any client that's going to be worthy of 80% of your revenue. 3 degrees of separation. I just told a client yesterday, not yesterday, maybe just on Friday. I'll let you finish first, then I'll tell you this story.
Yeah, so my thing was just like, it's just going through this book, going through this with all us together. We are following the book, and the book is happening to us, and we are happening to the book, and it's just in divine timing. It's just really, that's the reality, and it's just meeting all those amazing people, and there's masterminds popping up everywhere and anywhere. There always have been, but I haven't felt always aligned, and it is just the ones you choose to be with. You can be in so many, it can be so overwhelming. But I really feel if it's in alignment, and a lot of them I've said no to, and I'm actually getting really strong in saying it in a really loving way, like, no, that's not for me, thank you. Thanks for the invite, or thanks for this, but no thanks. And I think that's when you set your boundaries and really feel that energy. And if that's what it is for you, with all respect for everybody involved, and just appreciating who they are and what they do, but it might not be for me, and that's perfectly fine. It's not about right or wrong. It's just be. It just is.
And before Adrian tells us the story, that's exactly what you're saying about the mastermind. It's got to be a group that works in harmony. So it's got to be someone that you resonate with, and you can work together with and support each other all the way through. Others. Adrian, what did you want to? What was that story you were going to share with us?
I'll tell you that story, but I want to just add something. What Nicolette said just then was we're reading the book, but actually the book's happening to us. We're happening to the book, because I saw something today where it says a part of quantum physics that for any object observed, that the object is also altered by the observer, because every observer sees it differently. That's part of quantum physics. That's where you're getting in. See, like that's the irony of like the continuum of knowledge. You got the scientists and you got the spiritualists, and they meet at the middle, but they can't talk to each other. But they're talking about the same thing. They're talking about quantum theory was written by Indigenous Australians too. In expressed in their paintings was a description of the, what is and what is not, what is matter, what is antimatter, what exists, what doesn't exist. It's the tree falling in the empty forest. Does anyone hear it? And everyone's interpretation is different, but sometimes you also need to get away from thinking that you're connected, your connections will connect you. So even with 6 degrees of separation or 3 degrees separation, sometimes you need to hack it a little bit. In Australia, saying hack can have 2 meanings. Hack can mean put up with something and endure it, and also hack can mean, find an easier way to do something. But certainly in finding an easier way to do something is to do the opposite of what you would normally do, or go to the opposite end of the stream. So I'll give you an example. This lady is very close to me, normally goes to business conferences to find business people to do business with, and is very unsuccessful in doing that. Very unsuccessful in meeting the right business people to do business with. So I suggested to her. Also, she doesn't like going to those things, ironically enough. She needs them, but she doesn't like to go to those events. I said, go to some events that you would never normally go to. So Google what's on in Sydney and find 3 events that normally you would run from that event 100 miles an hour and get away from it. Go to that event and you will hack the system. You will meet someone who wants to talk to you. And when you talk to them, you'll find the connections from them will lead you back to the people you need. So sometimes going directly to where you think the most likely source is, like a library or an internet website or a particular person who has the qualification, it's not actually what you're looking for. I'll give you another example. And this is about Be Do Have. I have a friend who is a virtual assistant. Also had a lot of trouble getting clients so she could do, what virtual assistant does. You all know what a VA is, right? I asked her, what did she want to be when she was a little kid? And she said she wanted to be a marine biologist. I said, find all the marine biologists and offer to be their VA. Call every single one of them, email every single one of them, and ask, do they need a VA? Would they appreciate 3 hours a week that they didn't need to type something? Because making a bridge between what you want to be and what you can do is a very good idea. But going out and seeking anybody and everybody that can be involved potentially is pointless. A great detective does not collect and accumulate clues unless there's a specific crime that they relate to. Otherwise, you end up with a bookshelf full of clues that have no use. It's the same thing with skill sets. It's the same thing with people and connections. Wow, I think we better steer this back to the book now.
No, so related. Yeah. I met
Is it
somebody in
related?
the park last week and got all the answers I was looking for. I just randomly said, "Can I sit here next to you?" And we're both doing work, but we both closed our laptops and we talked for an hour. And she gave me all the answers I was looking for on a subject, and she got me connected to so many people randomly in the park, not in the
And,
library,
and
not in a webinar or a business meeting, whatever. Just in the park.
That's right, because everybody is still people, and people still need to eat. They still need to do exercise, and that's where you'll find them. I used to like a lot of ladies that were looking for boyfriends and stuff, and they say, "Oh, I've been to all the clubs and discos
Mm.
and bars," and I say, "You're fishing in a dirty pond. What do you expect to pull out of it? Go, find who you want to be and go and do that, and the men that exist in that realm, the ones that are attracted to you will find you, and it's a cleaner pond, and it's more likely to have something in common with them at a higher level than someone else." But that again, back to the book, infinite intelligence. What's the opposite of infinite intelligence, everybody? Finite intelligence. Finite, limited, restricted, within certain parameters that could go for any kind of self-sabotaging we may do or have done. It might be just our capacity to take on new things.
so just we're starting to run out of time, and I did say we'll go into the science behind what he was talking about. When he was, he says that there's only two known elements in the universe, the element of energy and matter. And then he says matter can be broken down into molecules, atoms, and electrons. The human mind is a form of energy, and part being spiritual in nature. When two minds connect in a spirit of harmony, the spiritual units of each mind form an affinity, which constitutes the psychic face of the mastermind. So I think that's what Nicolette was saying, is when she met this girl, when she was with the computers, the psychic nature of that, it's the energy resonated and attracted. And that's what it's all about. I love to hear from Paul, because he hasn't said much because he was a bit late. What's your take on that, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sort of leads on, or follows on partly from what I was talking about before with the manifesting. It's the thing, what you focus on is what you'll see. So if you're wanting to buy a yellow Lexus, suddenly you'll see, lots of yellow Lexuses around, or when you buy it, you're more conscious of it, and therefore you'll see it. And I guess something from, get together last Saturday with Adrian was that, one thing I've been looking at needing was warehouse, and when I finally find a warehouse, it's going to need some air conditioning. Well, the other guy that was at the meeting, he runs two air conditioning places, and then later on as a throwaway line, he said, he's got a friend that is an advocate for renting commercial property. So that was interesting, and whether it was by chance or whether Adrian heard me speak about it before and thought, we should connect these two guys, I don't know, but it was just random conversation in the introduction and finding out what he did. And it's a bit like Nicolette sitting down next to the person in the park. She had no idea what was going to come out of it at the time, and so.
And that's the same as any meeting. I didn't know he had a friend that specializes in commercial property. But that just shows you again, it's never going to be the person you meet and swap business cards with. It's going to be a friend of them, a friend of their friend.
Yeah. And it was the same with the conversation. I mean, you connected me with Chris about the simulators as well. So, there's been already a phone call. Actually, we've had phone call, text, and a meeting, and the conversation will continue with that as well.
That's why my company is called Maven Sales Intelligence, because a Maven provides what people need when they need it, and also tell other people about it as well when they tell them. Maven tells them something when they need to know. It's a lot like when a student's ready, the teacher appears, but also when you really need something, the person that's going to give it to you will appear, and you have to believe it. Just like what Gregory said about his friend, he'd obviously hacked the universe in a way, but in probably a very limited way, because it was most of the examples you gave were about his physical being, which is, like physical quotient rather than emotional quotient or something higher. But that, if people can do that, they can, it's like the people that can manifest winning the lottery, or having business deals. You have to believe it. Actually, I'm having a lot of success at the moment manifesting certain sales for one company, because of my connection with that company is so strong. I only need to pick up the phone. I'm not even selling. I'm just telling them what we do, and it's attractive enough for them.
Yeah, I'll just share something else quickly about the energy and things. I mean, I went down to the Avalon Air Show during the week, just for the day. If you don't know it, it's the biggest one in the Southern Hemisphere. It hasn't been held for a few years because of COVID. And I've spoken to a few people about using my simulators and doing some things in the past, and I want to go down and reconnect. I hadn't made any appointments with anybody. And there's lots. I mean, I don't know. I printed out the short version of the exhibitors there, and it ran to about 97 pages. So that's how big it was. So I targeted down to probably 20 that I wanted to connect with. Went up to one of them. I had to wait for a little while, but I wasn't going to leave until I'd seen the people that I wanted. So I needed, and coincidentally, the operations manager and the head of flying were both there. I got to speak to both of them. I actually knew one of them from previously, so I reintroduced myself, told them what I was wanting to do, and asked them what they were doing about this particular type of training. And they said that they'd been starting to look at it, but they didn't have the experience to do it. So I said, well, I do. They're all from general aviation, so light aircraft background, not from an airline. And this particular type of training, the people that are involved and running the training actually need to have special, we need to have flown, essentially for an airline, multi-crew aircraft, and a few other things as well, which none of them have. So we're going to continue the conversation this week with that as well. And I also knew they had a couple of simulators, and so I asked them about those, and they don't have them approved. And I said, oh, would you be interested in selling them? And they said, oh yeah, we might be. And they're the same as the simulators I just got approved. So for me, it's easy. Buy their simulators, get them approved, and I've got another 2.
So there's some of the proof of this energy in. It goes on to say, energy is nature's building blocks, which constitutes every material thing in the universe. And part of these building blocks and this energy is your thought patterns and things like that. So we're coming to an end. I just want to grab everybody's last thoughts on this, on the mastermind. And I think I'll start with Gregory, Paul, Nicolette, and Adrian, because that's how you appear on my screen. So, Gregory, last thoughts?
I kind of think the whole book, the mastermind, you can't form a mastermind until you know what you want, which is pretty much the basis of the book, that obtaining your burning desire. I don't believe a person is going to find their true burning desire until they find their true self, know who they really are, and only then will they know what they really want. And everything else in the book comes from that burning desire.
Paul?
Yeah, I think the manifesting or energy, whatever you want to call it, it comes down to a conversation and having it, and having the confidence and courage to have the conversation. I mean, I was tired by the end of the show. These were actually one of the last people that I went to see. It would have been easy to say, no, I'm not going to do it. So to have that personal connection, actually go and do it and have the conversation is really important. I just wish I could do it to get a date. That's all.
Well, I think Adrian and I were telling you about the date stuff. And also the reason why you went and saw them was because you had a burning desire. And that's what gave you the energy to go and see them.
Yeah.
Nicolette.
Just what Gregory said, the reason it didn't work for me in so many ways with so many businesses, because it didn't work myself. So I had to find myself first, know who I am, what I want, who I stand for, and who I'm being. And that's why this book started at the divine timing, and it's unfolding as we unfold every chapter. It's beautiful. I love the mastermind. Thanks for being part of it.
Oh, well, thank you, and all of you for being part of it, because it's I think it's a powerful thing to do. You've got to want to do it. There's a lot of people that wanted to do it, and life got in the way. But you guys keep turning up, and you're the ones that are going to get the most out of it. And one thing I know, and I'll actually finish with Gregory on this, because I was speaking to Gregory about something, that a mind shift that he had last week that was massive for him. But before I do this, let's get Adrian's last words.
I think a lot of you, I've told you before, I was born with Poland syndrome. So like my right hand's smaller than my left hand, and my right arm is shorter, and of course, and the right side of my ribs is deformed, just on that side. And so when I was growing up, of course, I had a lot of self-confidence issues regarding my body, but not anything else. But something my headmaster said to me is that you can apply this to anything. If you want others to love you, you have to love yourself first. And you can see it in Nicolette's face every time we see her, is an ease and contentment, and you actually glow, Nicolette, because you are living, breathing, walking who you are. I know for Paul and I, if you had a couple of kids, you might look more like us, because we're not just thinking about what we are for ourselves, but also what we are for other people, and that is okay. But also, Paul, that's like, if you talk about dating is a very good example, because in fact, if you read this book, it is telling you the power of having a partner, and a mastermind. For a lot of people back in the day, your mastermind group was your spouse.
Yep.
And the thing that I would leave this on before I get too philosophical is very pragmatic. You become like the 5 people you spend most of the time with. So be careful who they are. And they might not be all masterminds or infinitely intelligent, but you want to make sure that that's the direction you're going and your group is going. And I think we've succeeded with this group being like that too. Actually, we need to get everyone who we started with back here.
Well, I've got the one to come back, Adrian. Interesting. You said something about having your partner and all that. So that's going to be next week's topic about the mystery of sex transmutation. So that's going to be a very interesting subject to talk about next week. But before we leave, I want Gregory just to share with us what you shared with me on Friday about a little breakthrough you had about the power of, was it auto-suggestion or self-talk?
Both. I think self-talk is the most powerful auto-suggestion anybody receives, and they do it to themselves. It's if you have a vision in your mind of what you want, and even if you keep that vision and speak affirmations or whatever method you have of trying to obtain that, it's the thoughts throughout the day while you're going about your everyday business. That is what matters the most, that inner self-talk, because no matter how positive your other methods are, if your inner voice is feeding you negative things throughout the day, that's what's really affecting the life that you're living. That and it's to me, at least for me, it's a simple concept, but not necessarily an easy task. It's easy to understand, but not always easy to do, because we think in words in our mind. Without speaking them, we're still thinking in words. And those words that we repeat about the circumstances in our life, if we're seeing things and thinking positive thoughts, that's good. But if we're experiencing not so pleasant experiences, and in our mind we're thinking negative and not so pleasant thoughts about those, that is what is really affecting our outer circumstances, is that inner talk, because you're receiving more of that through the day than you are with affirmations or visualization in the morning, noon, or night. That inner talk is going on continuously. So that is what you really got to watch, because that's what is really controlling and creating your outer circumstances. And I have had recent experiences with that where I purposely focused and shifted that inner talk throughout the day and kept my attention on it. And I watched my whole day unfold in a much better way, in an experience that I had in a place that I had been to many times and never had a good experience. I had an excellent experience that day. It played out exactly as I wanted it to. But that is the only time that I purposely focused and paid attention to my inner thought all day long. So it really does. It That's really what's creating your outer circumstances, is what's going on in your mind throughout the day, all day long.
Gregory,
Absolutely.
can I just tell you, Gregory, if you're consciously doing that, something I've started doing recently is, yes, when I'm having those thoughts, is to immediately count down from 5. Count down from 5 as soon as you feel it. Start counting. I know this is a very low tech, lowest common denominator, what you would see, but it works because it it's like, when people used to say, before you get angry or say something angry, count to 10. Actually, it's wrong. If you count down from 5, you start losing the anxiety that it's creating, because counting down is a release.
That makes
Counting
sense.
up
Yeah.
is an acceleration. So you're de-escalating yourself, and then that allows you to receive better energy waves. Or it also puts you in a frame of mind where you can start consciously focusing on the positive, etc., etc. So that would be my advice to you. Just if you are doing that and you're concentrating on that through the day, try counting down from 5 and then doing your method to continue getting positive on your your inner thoughts and your inner voice. I know sometimes I wake up in the morning and I go downstairs and everyone else is asleep, and I think there's something going wrong, and I say no, this is going to be a choice. I have a choice of what today is going to be, and I count down. I say, let's start again. You don't have to go back into bed and get out of the right side. Just stay where you are and count down and decide that you are going to have a better day than what it looks like it's going to be.
Fantastic. That's a great tool that anybody can use. And add that to Gregory didn't really go into great depth and detail about how it has affected him, but I'll try and summarize it. He hated going into a certain state in America because it just was always a bad experience. And he caught that thought, and just like a director in a movie or a producer and whatever, director in the movie, created his own movie set of how that day would turn out. And it turned out exactly as the day would turn out. And then you go, oh, well, you know, it's lucky once. He did that, was it 3 times in a row, Gregory?
Yeah, and a lot of people, not necessarily us, but if you were to say it to just random somebody you were speaking to, a lot of people would think this was a bunch of craziness. But yeah, I put it together in my mind how I wanted it to be. I watched it and played it out like watching a video over and over, and that day happened exactly the way I had foreseen it, and it's actually amazing. And yeah, I did it 3 times in a row, 3 different places that I've always had bad experiences. After the first one, I thought I'm going to do this again, and it worked again, and then it worked again. So I'm a firm believer in it. But yeah, it's that inner talk throughout the day matters so much.
And that's really what we're doing every week with Think and Grow Rich. That's what this book is all about. It's catching the thoughts and changing your thoughts to create what you want to create. And that's what we do. That's what we're discussing tonight about creation, creating the life you want. And if you want to create a bigger, more powerful life, create a mastermind of like-minded people and work harmoniously so that 1 and 1 does not equal 2. 1 and 1 equals an extra, a third being as well. So with that, next week we're going, as I said, we're going to be talking about somebody's alarm went off. We're going to talk about the mystery of sex transmutation. So that's going to be a very interesting topic. I look forward to it. So thank you, everybody, and I will see you all next week.
Thank you. See you all.
Bye.